Welcome back, Night Dwellers, to another journey through the shadows of the unexplained. I'm your host, Asher Knight, and this is the Midnight Hour. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the strangest, most chilling phenomena reported across the world: time slips. Stories of people who claim to have stepped out of their own time, if only for a moment, and seen another era entirely. Accidental time travelers, historical echoes, or evidence that time isn't as linear as we believe? Tonight, we chase the truth. Let's start with a question. What if time isn't as stable as we think? What if, under the right conditions, someone could step forward or backward, even just for a moment, and see a world that isn't their own? That's the essence of what's called a time slip, an experience where the past or future bleeds into the present. People who claim to have experienced a time slip don't describe a dream or a vision. They speak of physically being somewhere else, seeing people, places, and events that shouldn't exist. And more often than not, these experiences happen suddenly and without warning. Could time, much like space, have weak spots, thin places where the past and future collide? If so, what does that mean for our understanding of reality? Segment 2: Famous Time Slip Cases. The Moberly-Jourdain Incident, 1901. Perhaps one of the most famous cases of a time slip happened in Versailles, France, in 1901. Two English women, Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were visiting the gardens of the Petit Trianon, a place deeply connected to Marie Antoinette. As they walked the grounds, they described a strange stillness in the air, as if the atmosphere itself had changed. Then they saw figures dressed in 18th century clothing, including a woman sketching in the grass. They later believed they had seen Marie Antoinette herself, alive and well, as if they had walked into the past. What's chilling is that their descriptions of the landscape didn't match modern Versailles, but perfectly matched historical records that had not yet been widely published. How could they have known details that weren't discovered until years later? The Liverpool time slip, 1996. Fast forward to 1996, in Liverpool, England. Frank, a local man, was out shopping when he turned onto Bold Street and suddenly realized something was off. The cars, the buildings, even the people looked old. Then he saw a store, Cripps, a shop that had closed down in the 1950s. People around him were dressed in mid-century clothing. In his confusion, he nearly got hit by an old-fashioned delivery van. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything snapped back to the present. The Cripps store was gone, replaced by a modern shop. Had Frank walked into the 1950s for just a moment? These aren't isolated incidents. Reports like these stretch across decades and continents. Segment 3: Explanations, Science or Something Else. So what's really going on here? Are these just elaborate hoaxes, hallucinations, or something more? Scientists have proposed a few theories: psychological phenomena. Could time slips be a kind of waking dream triggered by déjà vu, stress, or even electromagnetic disturbances in the brain? Quantum mechanics and multiverse theory. Could these moments be glimpses into parallel universes? Some physicists suggest that time is more fluid than we realize, and that under the right circumstances, these overlaps might occur. Geomagnetic anomalies. Some places, like Versailles and Liverpool, are built on ancient ground with unusual magnetic fields. Could these areas act as hotspots where time doesn't function normally? But then there's the strangest possibility of them all. What if time is breaking down? If reality itself is glitching, what does that mean for our future? Segment 4: Listener Stories. Have you experienced a time slip? Before we close tonight, I want to ask you, have you ever stepped into a moment that didn't belong to you? Have you seen people in old-fashioned clothing vanish before your eyes? Or found yourself somewhere you shouldn't be? Maybe it was just for a second. Maybe, like Frank in Liverpool, you brushed against another time and before you could react, the world snapped back into place. Or maybe you haven't made it